a camera, a mic, out on the street chasing wrong from right. Eyes like fire burning through the haze. Truth is a weapon, cuts through the maze. Some call her trouble, some call her brave. Digging up secrets they tried to save. A real deal around town. She's breaking it down, spinning the wheel, exposing the sound. They despise her, they praise her, but she won't slow down. Real deal around town. The truth's her cry. Shadows, they curse her name. Afraid of the spotlight she brings to the game. But the grateful ones, they cheer in the dark for the spark she ignites in their weary hearts. Some call her danger, some call her hope. She's the thin line on the tightrope. The sound. They despise her, they praise her, but she won't slow down. Real deal around town. The truth's her crown, yeah. The sound. They despise her, they praise her, but she won't slow down. Real deal around town. The truth's her crown, yeah. The truth's her crown, yeah.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm back. Real Deal is back. And we got some updates on things that are going on around Townsend today that I'm not surprised, and neither should you. I hear there's rumors going up and down Main Street and up and down Route 13 too, but that all kinds of things. The rumors are flying, and I want to try to dispel some of the rumors or maybe even support them. Some of them might be true. Some of this, I just don't know what's going on. Sometimes it's pretty hard to tell what the truth is because things are starting to get narrowed on the information. Townsend is famous for lack of transparency. It's getting worse. I can confirm that. And when it comes to litigation, they have to keep their mouth shut. They haven't kept their mouth shut up until recently, until they finally talked to a lawyer, I guess, or town officials have talked to a lawyer. But we're back here to talk about the water department stuff. I'm sure that Todd Melanson says exploding somewhere, but that's, he's the chair of the Board of Water Commissioners, and he kind of loses his mind especially if it has something to do with me. If my name comes up, I'm sure he loves my videos. I'm sure he's watching them somehow. But he should. He really should. Everybody should be watching my videos if you want to know what's going on around this town. This is where you're going to get it, and there's no interruptions. I go somewhere else and I try to talk. I often get interrupted, and nobody wants to hear what I have to say. Sometimes they do. They're starting to realize that maybe I know what I'm talking about sometimes. And this is a tough one. This litigation, this ethics complaint, and the litigation, and I have to be very clear that those are two separate legal things. They're two separate legal issues. One just feeds into the ethics complaint feeds into the lawsuit. That's the reason the lawsuit exists is because of the ethics complaint. But the ethics complaint stands alone in its legal jurisdiction or impact because the only person facing the ethics commission on an ethics hearing is David Vigeant. He's not a defendant in the lawsuit. And it's completely separate. The only defendant in the lawsuit is the town of Townsend as an entity, not any individual. Often in a civil lawsuit, when you have a town implicated on a or being sued, usually they throw some extra names in there to say, it's the Board of Selectmen and they'll name who, or, they could. But in this case, this has been going on for several years, actually, at least a couple, 2 or 3, I don't know. I don't know when this really started. I don't remember. I can go back and I plan, I'm going to go back to some of the old select board meetings because that's going to be revealing to see who said what when. Because the selectmen keep saying everything's in a public meeting. Okay, let's go see what you said 3 years ago that you're now being sued for. Got it? Anyway, that's what I'm going to do, but I'm not doing it today. I might do it later today, but not on a video. I'm going to be putting something together. I'm trying. But today, I'm bringing you up to speed on the status as much as I can on the lawsuit, but I'm really talking about the ethics complaint. I know my last video, or a few days ago, I just said that I thought David settled. In fact, I said my title of the video, I think, was Ethics Complaint Settled. But there's more stuff. Something else is happening. And it's not settled. I was wrong. I said, didn't lie. I said last time that I'm 99% sure that it's over, but it's not. They pulled it off the docket. It's not a docket. I call it a docket on here because it makes a shorter title. But because it's not a docket, it's not a court. It's before, I believe it's considered an administrative law judge, maybe. I'm not sure how they really call this hearing and who's hearing it. They took it off the calendar. It was supposed to be, his hearing was supposed to be originally scheduled for November 5th, and there was a motions hearing scheduled for earlier this week. Yeah, Monday. I think it was this week. Now I'm getting confused. Is it Monday? Might have been Monday this week, if not last week, but I'm pretty sure it was this week. Anyway, it doesn't matter. They canceled it, right? They canceled that hearing, and it was for motions. And I knew that the Ethics Commission, the attorney for the Ethics Commission, had made it clear that she was going to be filing dispositive motions, and which I think that defined coming out of what that means is that she was going to be asking for an immediate, that this is silly, there's nothing to defend here. I'm in kind of English. I don't know what options there are on that type of emotion, but I think she does want to put an end to this. And part of the problem, and a lot of courts or even commissions having hearings of this nature, they're not thrilled when somebody is pro se, when somebody's representing themselves. And that's what David Vigeant is doing. He, at least as far as I know, right up to now, he still has not hired an attorney to represent him. And with all the stuff that he's been doing, I think, you might think it would cost him more than his fine will be to hire an attorney, but it's not necessarily true. If you hire an attorney for something like this, they can end things quicker. And the things that they don't like on the other side, the so-called the prosecution of its case, the court has to really give some leeway to pro se litigants because they don't know what they're doing. They didn't go to law school. They don't know what the rules of engagement are. They don't know what they can or are expected to do as far as filing court documents and making proper appearance and what you can say and what the process and procedure. Your average citizen, we don't know that. They don't teach it. You have to, in every circumstance, you can read everything. The rules of civil procedure are online. They're on the state website. You can get them. But there's so much to it. Like, how does that apply to my case? You'd have to, excuse me, Judge, can I read this? I got to read a couple pages from the, procedures here. And you can't be doing that. And you go in with a lot of emotion. And what I've seen of Dave, when I talked to him a few months ago about this, and and he was very emotional. And when I've seen him in the last hearing that was on Zoom, he was very emotional there and very adamant that he did nothing wrong. But he hasn't presented himself as being able to see past his emotional belief that he's done nothing wrong. And that's why it helps to have an attorney, because they're not there for emotions. That's for your therapist. Just relax. Let the lawyer do the work. And so the commission, the hearings officer, has to fairly decide the case and fairly proceed through the case. So David, they give the litigant, this pro se litigant, the defendant, all the leeway they can legally to get up to speed on how to proceed. And that's what I've witnessed. And when I see all these change of dates, I think that they're really giving him another opportunity to try again. And I can't say for certain who said what to who, when, how, why. I don't know. But just realize what I saw before and these different steps. I'm of the assumption, again, I'm assuming that for whatever reason, as they were approaching the motions hearing, David didn't know what he was supposed to do next. And he wasn't prepared to respond to anybody else's motion. And he certainly didn't know what kind of motion he was supposed to be making. And my guess, and I'm a guess, this is not a guess. Do not take advice from me. I'm not an attorney, okay? So anybody, my big advice to everybody is when you're faced with something like this, you get an attorney. That's what you do before you open your big mouth, before you do much. Relax, have a cup of coffee, just decaf. Don't get more worked up. Say, okay, what do I do? And you don't go on Facebook. You don't do a YouTube video. You don't do interviews. You call an attorney. That's my legal advice whenever these things come up. And you're in the hot seat. But in this case, I suspect that David didn't know what to do. When you have you get, when all these things are going on, both attorneys, usually the attorneys do this work, and the defendant barely knows that it's happening. You might get CC to copy. Sometimes they forget to tell you. I've had that happen. But if but you get copies of what's going on, and the other side has to make notice to you. If something's being presented in a legal proceeding, the lawyer for the side, the government, has to usually they send it to your attorney, but they'll send it to you if you're representing yourself. And here's notice of something, or here's some file. I filed this in court today here. They don't have to explain it. In fact, they wouldn't be expected to explain it. Here's the filing I made. And what probably transpired is David received the motions that the other side was making for that motions hearing that was scheduled. And David freaked. What is this? What am I supposed to do now? What does this say? What are you talking about? And I really believe that that's probably what happened. And he, of course, called somebody because what am I supposed to do? And he might have also received a notice from the hearings officer of what he's expected to do in very basic legalese. And that he didn't know what to do. How do I do that? Or maybe he did file something that was, again, claiming his innocence, not an actual motion. And because he doesn't know, okay, the motions, I got to make a motion. If you don't watch enough court lawyer TV channels, I don't know. That's still not enough. We just, as lay people, we just take for granted what we hear, even watching 100,000 reruns of Law and Order and all the other ones. You don't catch this motion practice. You just don't understand. What is that? How do you do that? What are you talking about? And I'm suspecting this. And I'm not criticizing David. I'm not. The only criticism I have of David is I don't believe he's got a lawyer, and this is a big, bad mistake. But I think he's ignorant of the law. He doesn't know the process, the practice of law. He's not a lawyer. He's a water guy. And which I can't do that job either. But that's my only, so I don't want anybody to think I'm sitting on these YouTube videos talking about this case and I'm criticizing David, and I'm not calling him names or anything. But my only criticism of David Vachon is that he doesn't have a lawyer, and buddy, you need one. I think he's going down on this, and part of it is because he's just not, he doesn't have a lawyer, and that's a problem. If he just settled, which I think that's his best thing, but that's me. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving legal advice. I'm giving my opinion. I think he should settle and get this going. Just forget about it. But it doesn't appear that that's what's happening. He's still fighting tooth and nail. He's got his heels dug in, and I am not giving up. And he just doesn't see what he doesn't see it. And I feel bad for him because I don't think he understands. And if he's got supporters telling him not to give, just to do it this way, I don't know. What are they going to do when you lose, Dave? What are they going to do? And I know that there's people in Townsend that want him to be terminated. They want Gary terminated too. That's a big can of worms, and I'm not addressing that at this time. If any action were to come of that, I'll talk about it then. But I'm not hearing that the town is interested in doing that, terminating David. So far, I've heard nothing but nearly a plot putting David and Gary in for sainthood, rather than properly defending everything. It's just not reasonable. But right now I'm talking about David's case. Having an ethics complaint filed against you, this is not a speeding ticket that you only went 10 miles over. This is more like you maxed out your speedometer. You don't even know how fast you were going in the school zone. It's not a minor traffic violation, and it's not a felony. You're not in court facing criminal charges. But when you think about things, if David ever plans on leaving Townsend and working someplace else, if he gets a very public lashing for his failure to follow basic ethics, in the contracting, he's not going to get another job. So whatever he's doing, he should plan on staying in Townsend for the rest of his working days. That's just my opinion, because can another place hire you? They can't trust you with contracting again. Townsend shouldn't trust him with contracting again, because if he still to this day thinks he did the right by this contract, I mean, just everything that's been said about it, it's like, well, any bozo that can read Chapter 30B of Master General Law can see that he violated the law. I mean, this is not, no, the government isn't twisting things around just to target him. That's not what's happening here. But anyway, that's my opinion at this stage of the game. And it's been my opinion from the beginning. Guys, get it together. But when you're out there in the world, if Townsend wants to do needs a contract for anything, I think there's going to be a problem for anybody trusting us at all. Or if somebody is a fishy, steel handling, unethical contractor, they know that they can probably get away with side deals, because we're not going to look into it. We're not going to know what we're doing when it comes to contracting. We do not have somebody working in the MCCPPO, CCP. We don't have a master or a certified CPO, contracting officer. We don't have a certified. We have one, but that's the town clerk. And his job is not contracting. He doesn't get into that. They did, in his previous employment, they sent him to that class. I think our town administrator should be not wasting a moment's time in getting that certification, and the town should be paying for it. It should be part of his contract. It should be in his job description that whoever is in the town administrator's position should get the full boat of training. I don't care that we don't do multi-million-dollar contracts on a daily basis, but there's a lot covered in that course that would protect the town from this ever happening again. Maybe. Not, okay, that's my sidebar on that issue. But if you settle, it goes away. I mean, it, ethics knows it, but there's no paper trail. Like, I tried. I knew they weren't going to give it to me because I knew it wasn't a public record. But I asked to see if they would give me any inch of information. I asked because Gary Shepard had been running around town proud of the fact that he had settled. He was beating his chest with, I settled with ethics. I'm clean. And it's true. He settled with ethics, so he's clean. There's no record of him on an ethics violation. David, on the other hand, when he gets through with this, it's my opinion that he's going to have a record of a ethics violation. And in very public and publicly, the town, it's a black mark on the town, and it's mostly a black mark on him. I mean, publicly, it's about black mark on the town. Officially, no, because it's, when you violate ethics, it's an individual violation, other than liability in a lawsuit, which is the other thing. But in this case, it's David Bijan is unethical in his practice as water commissioner. No, he's not. Water superintendent. He's not a commissioner. He's water and superintendent. He is going to come out of this labeled an unethical municipal employee, municipal manager, and water superintendent. A lot of places, including DEP, are not going to consider David Bijan as a trustworthy person. And that's a problem. That's a problem for him. It's a problem for the town. It's a problem for him. I mean, I don't want to, I'm old. I'm retired. I do things because I enjoy it now. I don't do things because I must make a living somewhere. but David is still working, but he's, I think, I around my age. I can't remember. I can look it up. I suppose I could find his birthday somewhere. But he's. I think he's old enough to stay here and just retire. I don't know. I don't know how long. You have to work so many years, and you have to be a certain age, and you have to work so many years to get the state retirement. This is not going to harm him on that. If the town wants him to stay, he'll stay, and there's no harm to his retirement. I had done state municipal or state law on retirement from state employment or municipal. It's all tied in together. Municipal employment, state employment. I did a story on Tad Rochette, who was a police officer in Townsend, who retired and then subsequently was arrested for and charged and convicted of impersonating a police officer, and he lost his pension. He's not getting retirement now, and nope, I don't know what he's doing, but he's not getting retirement because his conviction was related to his job. If he got convicted for just about anything else separately, which had nothing to do with him being a police officer, he would be home free. In fact, he had other charges at the time that were dropped, and any of those would have been fine. They would have sucked as far as convictions goes. Nobody would want to have the convictions that they were trying to get on him. But the only one that caused him a problem, which is kind of a sick joke. I mean, that to lose your pension because you were impersonating a police officer when you actually were, in fact, a retired police officer. But that's a different story. I already covered that, and the story's over. I didn't notice an appeal. I think he's gone beyond the appeal process, the time limit. So we won't hear from that again, as far as I know, unless he files a civil suit, which I don't know. But on this, but where this is, the ethics, when he loses, it will not be a criminal conviction. So it's a administrative thing. I don't know. It's not guilty. I can't remember what it's. If he found, I don't know. We'll get there. I know we're going to get there. Unless he settles. If he settles, then it just drops out of public view. And I don't know what happened, but it looks like he settled. I'll be back to saying it again. That would be, I've already said it twice that I thought he settled. And here we are again. I guess maybe I shouldn't say it again until I know he settled. But I'll never know. I'll never know. If it just disappears, I got to let more time go by before I start saying, I think he settled. He hasn't settled, ladies and gentlemen. He's fighting this. We have on November 18th. We've gone backwards in time now as we go forward. November 18th, David Vigent has a pre-hearing conference, which is way back. I mean, we did this already. I'm going to do it again, I guess. I think I don't know what happened to the first one. They, I don't know. Maybe there's a procedural error. I have no idea. But the pre-hearing conference will be him. What we already tried to do, or they tried to do, was he had to answer certain questions, or he was presented with certain facts, and he had to provide an answer. Very similar to the civil suit that the town's going through. They give a whole bunch of statements, and the defendant has to respond. And he didn't properly respond. He just made one big statement that I'm innocent and everything I did was perfectly fine. That's not okay. So they had to continue the conference last time and try it again and explain to him how he has to respond to this presentation to him. and hopefully that he would properly do so. And again, he doesn't have an attorney, so he's got to figure that out on his own. What am I supposed to say here other than he kept saying, I'm going to say the same thing for each question, and it's like, no, that's not how this works. And I'm confident that it can't be the same answer to each question. You have to respond in some way. And I don't know. Where this isn't a criminal case, it's not a criminal case. If it were a criminal case, you just say, not guilty, of the right to remain silent. And you just wait for the hearing. Let the prosecution, everybody passes discovery back and forth. But that's not what this is. You have to actually say your piece. You can't save it. So on November 18th, we're back again to pre-hearing conference where we talk about the points of the case, and they don't talk because this is open to the public. It's on Zoom on November 18th at 10 a.m. I'll be there. I gotta make sure I put it in my calendar so nothing else gets in the way. So, but we're back to where we were back in September, maybe even before. I think it was September that we started this mess before. And then once they have that again, then we'll be back to the possibility of another motions hearing, and then finally the final hearing, which we're probably looking at December or January before this gets finalized. And I mean, David's got to shit or get off the pot. He's got to get it right. They're not. I mean, the court or the hearing officer has a right to have enough of this, and we're going to. But I know the woman who was the attorney who's prosecuting that is not probably the right word, but who's doing that she didn't have a sense of humor the last time, and she's very. I mean, some of that might be theater, in to be somewhat intimidating, which that's her job, to be very forceful, and that this is kind of, we need to move along with this. There's just no question what we're going to have here. We know how this is going to end up, and I think I do. David doesn't, but that's what's going to happen. And yeah, we're not getting anywhere. So it's alive and well, the ethics complaint. And I'm going to transition a little bit to the lawsuit against the town for the very same actions, taken and not taken, by David Vigent and Gary Shepard. Because the ethics complaint, the ethics hearing, everything that comes out in that hearing is evidence. It is evidence, and it will be used as evidence in the $1 million lawsuit that RFS has against the town. RFS is the losing bidder who probably should have won the bid. And I mean, if nothing else, I think Shepco should have been disqualified once things started to roll, and RFS would have been the only bidder and would have won. But that's my 2 cents. That's my opinion. So that lawsuit, which I think the town should settle as quickly as possible to save money for the taxpayer, because I don't know what the selectmen are doing. But but everything that since David's not going to settle, if David settled, then it would be everything that was said would probably be done. I don't know that the settlement could even be dredged up for the civil suit. I'm not sure. I know I can't get a public record of this stuff, and neither can anybody else. But if there's a lawsuit, that's maybe there's some dispensation that they could, but they're not at this point. But where the hearing is going to take place, everything that's asked and answered is going to get used against the town, and very successfully. in my opinion. It's only going to make it easier for the town to lose the lawsuit. If there's a hearing, if this goes to court. Now, to speak about the lawsuit alone, last Tuesday, the Board of Selectmen had a marathon meeting. It was, I think, 4 hours long, maybe longer, I don't remember. I watched the whole thing. I was fighting sleep at the end. Oh my God, is this ever going to end? Because they did an executive session, which is how it's supposed to be done. They're supposed to do executive session to talk about litigation. They're not supposed to talk about it in open session like they had been. That's how I know that they think Gary and David should be elevated to sainthood for the work they did on that contract. Tell you. So they had over an hour, maybe an hour and 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, that they were in executive session with Adam Costa, our town council, to go over things about the lawsuit. That was 45 minutes too long, in my opinion. I think that the select board is still pretty convinced that there's no here. It's a frivolous lawsuit, and this is BS, and we're going to win, and there's no reason for this lawsuit. It's nonsense. I hope they're coming around. They're having another executive session on Tuesday, next Tuesday. That agenda just came out today, and that's another meeting that's going to start at 5:00. And I want to say that there is nothing on that agenda. There should be. There are some other things pending that they really should have on that agenda, but I guess they don't want to. They're not dealing with anything today. Next Tuesday, the only thing on the agenda is the lawsuit. And there'll be an executive session. Again, I'm assuming that town council will be there again. Maybe liability insurance council might be there. I'm not sure. If every time Adam Costa shows up, it costs the taxpayer I think it's $250 an hour, plus his preparation time. So I don't know. We're not going to know how we're not going to know how long they're in session, because I'm confident they're going to go into they're going to open the meeting publicly. They're going to go into executive session, and they're going to adjourn from executive session. That's my belief. It would be interesting. It's a thought I'm having that I may go there and bring my laptop or iPad and just sit in the waiting area just to see how long they're in there, to see who goes in and out and how long they're there. I won't get any information about what goes on in the room, but I have every right to be there in the waiting area, not eavesdropping. I have no, I'm not that, no, that's just not, it's not, I could get in trouble for that. I won't be doing that. But in the main lobby, main waiting area of the town hall, there's a couple of chairs, or I can get one from somewhere. Yeah, the meeting hall's there. If I need a chair, I can go get it out of there. But it is sometimes interesting to sit and wait and see how long they're actually in executive session, especially when they're going to adjourn out of executive session. So nobody knows. It stops recording. It stops all that stuff. So that's going on. So the select board's getting serious. They have to respond. There's in the original filing, when you get served a lawsuit, they were served on October 7th. And based on the order or the filing, they had 20 days to do a response, just like Dave had to do a response. Now, the town cannot represent itself. It has to have an attorney. That's the law. We, somebody like Nelson can't go filling out some narrative like Dave did. No, you have to, by law, we're required to have a lawyer. Thank God. Thank God. But this, the lawyer has to do a response to the 20 some odd sentences that were presented in the in the filing of the lawsuit that I went through a few videos ago. And they have 20 days, which is, what's today? Today's the 24th, 25th, 26th. They're supposedly supposed to file that on Monday. And they're supposed to file it with the court, and they're supposed to file it with the, send a copy to the court and a copy to RFS. I don't think they're going to make that date. I'm assuming that council, in fact, that was in the, the 20-day requirement was in the filing on the cover, on the service cover. I didn't go over that. I don't know that I had that page at the time. I do now, because it's out there. But the, yeah. So they didn't make it. They're not going to make it. I don't think that, no. I don't think so. So I think that Adam will, if Adam is doing this, I'm worried. I mean, I'm not worried that I'm sure Adam Costa is a competent attorney. I don't agree with everything he's ever done, but he's a competent attorney. So I'm not criticizing him at all yet. I'll let you know. But I'm sure that the first thing he's done is notify the court that it will take longer, that he'll need another period of time. I don't know what the period of time is that he's requesting, or maybe he just needs to call the civil side. He may just need to call the law firm representing RFS and to say, okay, I'm going to have this in another week or so, and we can move on, acknowledging receipt and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. We'll see, because all these documents, every document that goes back and forth in a court proceeding is filed with the court on the page on masscourt.org. Masscourts.org? Masscourts, I think. And you just have to go to look up the town of Townsend's lawsuits, a whole bunch of them. But you go to this one, and you go and see, and all the documents that are filed are there. There won't be anything that's a secret in this. Everything is a public document, and it'll be there forever. As long as the website exists and we can access it. You never know. Laws change, things change, but so forever is probably an extreme response by me, but it will be there for a while, and we'll be able to access it. And I'm going to look, probably when I get off this video, I'm going to check just in case something got filed today. I don't think so. I'm sure it'll be at least a week before anything new gets filed. And in fact, they haven't even listed that we have an attorney representing us yet. So, and I think that will all come together at the same time. Whoever's representing the town will file an appearance, and that's a document that has to be filed. And that will usually that shows up on the page, but it will show who's the attorney of record for us. That hasn't been filed yet. Doesn't have to be. It's no big deal. It will. That will all be filed at the same time, I believe. Well, the same time that somebody asked for an extension on filing the response. But this, if we don't settle, the lawsuit's going to go on for a couple years. Because if we don't settle, if we're going to go to trial on this, then, like I've said before, everyone who's been on the Board of Selectmen since this whole water treatment facility got started will be deposed. Everyone who's been on the Board of Water Commissioners will be deposed. The people who work for SHEPCO, including Gary Shepard, will be deposed. The employees at the water department will be deposed. Because just because you work there, you work there, you probably have been in conversations. You've done some of the administrative work, probably. So anybody that's been there since this started. The regular water people that work there and fix things, I doubt it. But the water commissioners, um, Todd, Nate, Jess, I mean, Jess is working there administratively now too, so she's got a double whammy. Who else has been on the water commissioners? Um, I can't remember. I have to look that up. But all of you are getting deposed if this goes to trial. And everybody's going to want to know what you know. And you can't lie. If you lie, that's, you could go to prison. No, because that's criminal. Nobody else has got criminal charges against them until somebody lies in deposition. You can have a memory lapse. I've seen that before. But don't lie. Don't even lie about your memory lapse. Just, anyway, because that's criminal. That's criminal. Lying is criminal. You don't want that. So, but you're all sitting ducks. And nobody should be talking to anybody about this. If you're involved, you really should keep your mouth shut, because everybody's, it isn't a dead issue yet. Like whatever's happened has happened, and then everything that's happening now doesn't matter. It does matter. If people are running their mouth who are involved in this, everything you say now can and will be used against you, and used against you at your deposition, and used against the town when it comes to making a determination on the judgment on this case. So shut up. Shut up. I could add a couple of adjectives there, or adverbs, or whatever it's called. Just stop talking about this case if you have anything to do with it. I have nothing to do with it. I'm just reporting the news. I'm reporting on this and keeping the public informed as best I can. And those are the two main things here. And like I said, I mean, there's all kinds of people in Townsend. I know some people are very supportive and of the anti-government. I don't know. There are a lot of people who are behind Gary and behind David to say that they didn't do anything wrong. I know they're out there. I know you're out there. But there's also another group of people who, many of whom don't even know each other, who are horrified by this. And here we go, Townsend again. And that this is just not right. And they're deeply angry at Gary. They're deeply angry at David. They're upset the fact that the town is not, that our town officials are not taking this seriously. And they think it's a big joke and that nothing's going to come of this. And the two sides are starting to collide, I think. I mean, I'm hearing little things and I'm, oh my God, I'm not reporting on what those little things are that are coming at me from multiple directions, because I don't want to stir anybody's pot right now. But I don't need to do that. I just want to say what, from my opinion, what I see on the impact that this is having on the people involved and the town as a whole. And I'm hoping that this doesn't get into impacting the water takers or the tax base, the taxpayers for the town budget. And I'll add one other concern, and that's we have a lot of grants and loans, zero interest loans that we received in order to build that building behind me. Okay, that is the water treatment facility that this whole conversation's about. And we got a lot of grants and loans, millions of dollars. And I am concerned, I've been concerned from the beginning, that the terms of those grants and loans can change. And if the grants, the outstanding grants we haven't actually received yet, or the loans that have to get signed or renewed, whatever his conditions on all these things. And if having this ethics determination goes against Gary and David and the town, are we on the hook? And the water treatment facility is actually the responsibility of the water takers, the actual building, the cost associated with that building. It's only on the water takers, not the town. Unless we don't have enough money in the enterprise account. That's a little subparagraph, and there's an enterprise account where the water takers pay for everything. And the money that we pay our water bills, which reminds me, my water bill is due next week. But the water takers primarily are responsible for meeting the financial obligations that the Board of Water Commissioners get us into. That's paid for by us, not all the taxpayers as a whole. It's only a percentage of the town. So if you're on a well, this is not whether the grants come through or not might not be a concern unless there isn't enough money in the water enterprise fund. Like if there are bills that are due, like if we have to pay $100,000 or $1 million or maybe more than that in January, that money's probably not in the enterprise account. And it would have to be paid for by the town itself, in which we'll have to have a special town meeting for either a debt exclusion. It would have to be a debt exclusion. Which means we'd have to pay for it. The taxpayers will still pay for it, and it'll be a bump in our taxes, but it won't be a permanent bump in our taxes, just until those loans are paid. But it's still a lot. It's a lot. It's unfair for us to pay for what they did. So for those of you that think these guys should have sainthood, just remember that if the bill comes in, that's the pay. That's our fee for giving them sainthood. That's what it is. If that's where you think things are, no. So that being said, I think that's all I have to say about this. But I did this video because I wanted to bring you up to speed on the latest and greatest on the ethics complaint. It's still alive and well. David has not settled, and we've got our next meeting of the Ethics Commission on this issue is November 18th. That's not the final hearing. So it's not where all the excitement will be, but it'll be interesting. I'm going to be there. I'm going to watch it. I'm planning on recording it, and we'll go from there. And I'll let you know. But November 18th, I'm sure that I'm thinking I might have more over between now. It's 3 weeks from now. So I'm sure more stuff will come out within the town on how this is all going to go and how the select board is handling it. If I can get information, because they don't know how to keep their mouth shut. And so we'll find out. All right. Well, thank you for watching, and hope this has been informative and enjoyable for you. So if you haven't already, don't forget to like the video. Like all my videos. Go watch them all. If you haven't seen them in a while, watch them all again. It's interesting. And then if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. It really helps getting my viewers, the number of subscriptions up. I'm not getting paid, by the way. I'm not monetized, so it doesn't give me any money or anything. But just if you're subscribed, you'll get notified when I do another video. When I publish them, sometimes I go live, sometimes I do a preview. In fact, this will be previewed, which is kind of live. I'll be sitting here watching while you're watching, even though I recorded it right beforehand. It's kind of weird. But I'm going to preview this because it's almost 4 o'clock, sure. And but if you subscribe, you get notified when things. If you hit the notification bell, and then, but it also helps with the algorithm on YouTube, that more people will be given an opportunity to see this video. Most of the universe doesn't know I did the video. Everybody doesn't get notified in the universe that Cindy did another video, but it will show up on a, I don't know it's not a regular feed, but kind of when you open YouTube, there's a bunch of videos that you have no interest in, and there's a bunch of videos that, oh, that looks different, and you might click on it, and that's where my videos will show up. The more subscribers I have, the more views I get. It's an algorithm thing. You don't have to be concerned with it, but if you want to help, and then like my videos, subscribe to my videos, and share. You can share these with your friends. There's a share button that's on below my screen here that you can see, and you can share it through email. You can share it through Facebook. You can share it through X. You can share it anywhere. Just copy the link and fire it off. And look what kind of stupid crap that's going on in Townsend. Look at this woman babbling about Townsend again. Whatever. But yeah, that's how we help each other. Okay, so I will see you on the next video. So thank you so much for watching. And I hope that this has been helpful and informative and keeping up with whatever the heck we got going on here in Townsend. All right. Have a good one. Maybe click on some of the videos that are popping up right about now. See ya.